I'm Mary Lassiter, and this video is for Murfreesboro City Schools Units 1 and 9 in the 5th grade. When I'm teaching volume, I always like to start with just everyday things in my house. So this is a right rectangular prism. I've just got a pasta box. You can get Kleenex boxes, cereal boxes, things like that. Make sure you have plenty of these as examples, real world, right rectangular prisms. Then once they know what they're building, and we can talk about building a box or whatever. One of the things you can use Unifix cubes, Link cubes, Snap cubes, all kinds. Now, the one thing about Unifix that I don't like as well as what I'm going to show you at the end is that they stick together. And you're going to see when we start decomposing that might, pose some problems for you. Another thing you can use, these unit cubes from your base 10 blocks. They are great because you've probably already got them. And they can stack, and I can compose and decompose. So that's one thing, but they're harder for kids to build with because they're so tiny and they seem to fall over more. My favorite thing to build with, I love to use these wooden cubes, and these are maple cubes. They have the 6 congruent faces, and they've got a good weight to them, and they stand up a little bit better. The first thing we're going to look at when we're looking at this, and of course this is 1 unit cube, and it's so important for the kids to get to build with these unit cubes. So when you're talking about a unit cube, they know what it is. They've held it in their hands, they've built with it, they have a concrete understanding. Let's take a task. This task is in your planning guide on Murfreesboro City Schools. Build a rectangular prism that is 2 cubes high, 3 cubes wide, and 5 cubes long. How many cubic units? Okay, so they've got to think about this cube. So let's look. Let's build the bottom first because we like to do these layers. So we've got, here's my 3, here's my 5, but it's got to be 2 high. So let's look at that. Notice how I can just pull this other one right on top of it, all right? So, and I can always just go to my bag and get more. I bag these cubes so that they're ready for each individual child, and I'll put 40 cubes per bag so that they can just take their cubes, build these things, and I can be walking around observing. Also, they can do this building in, you could take this task that you used as a group, put it in a center, put it in a station, let them build again, all right? So let's look at what we've built, okay? I see on the bottom layer, I see 3 rows of 5. So I'm thinking, ooh, 3 rows of 5, that's 3 times 5 is 15. But I've got 2 layers. And even if 1 cube falls out, it's no big deal. You can just stick it right back in, okay? Now, I've got another layer, so that's another 15. So that gives me how many total cubes? 15 and 15, that gives me my 30. I could also think, like when I'm thinking of associative property, I love to think 2 times 5. Okay, if I did the 2 times 5 first, that gives me a 10. I love to multiply by 10s. And then the 3 times the 10, that would also give me 30. With this example, you can ask kids to give you as many as possible. How many expressions can they give for this? And they should be able to give you this many, linking that volume and associative property, okay? While they're doing it, you might ask them to keep a chart with the length and the width and the height. Now, later on, when you go to Unit 9, you're probably gonna make 4 columns and have a column for area. But right now we're trying to get them to get those 3 dimensions, the height and the length and the width right there, okay? This is side, all right? All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is this is another task, And as I say, you need to be using these cubes so many days. I would use them a week or two at the beginning of my volume. When I go to Unit 9, I would pull them back out. I would use them again. They have to see those unit cubes. Now, this is a breaking apart solids lesson that's also on your pacing guide. And this is what it looks like, and they have to build it. Well, if we only do this pictorially, it's hard to get to the basis of what the kids are not understanding. So I've got to look at, and I've got to think, oh, there's a 4, and there's a 4 that way. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a 4 by 4. So I'm going to build this. Okay, I've got 4 this way, but I've got to get 4 this way. All right. Okay, I've got that bottom layer. See how easy it is to compose these and decompose? Then I notice that it's got this little part up here, and I see that it's 2 by 2, and it's also the 4. So I've got to build this. And as I'm walking around, I can see the problems immediately, because I can tell you, if they can build this, they have the understanding for looking at pictorial and being able to count the length, the width, and the height. Okay, now I have built this, all right? The next thing I'm gonna do, I have to decompose it into right rectangular prisms. So there are 2 ways the kids could do this, and this is a task you wouldn't be telling them, I'm just telling you on the video. That's one way I could decompose them. I've got a 4 by 4 by 1 and a 2 by 2 by 4. That's one way to decompose. Another way to decompose this would be like this. And I've got a 2 by 4 by 1, and then I've got a 2 by 3 by 4, so they would find the volume and add them together. So this is great practice, great for centers. You have to have kids building. It's so important to get these cubes and have them ready to go. Now, another thing that we want to bring in literature. This is a book that I wrote with my co-author, Kathy Coombs, and it's Math in Action. And in this book, if you have 3rd grade teachers who went to Project Inspire, they have this book on their shelf, so you've already got it probably in your building. If you don't, you can email me and I will see that you get a copy. All right, now, in this book, there is a whole lesson on Mummy Math. Here's your book. This book is in your pacing guide, and Mummy Math is a story about some kids that go with their parents and they go exploring in Egypt and they look at all kinds of solids. But one of their investigations is they have to find a solid with 6 congruent faces. And of course we know that's going to be our cube. So it's a great book. You don't have to, this is a concrete pictorial abstract. You've got a lesson already done for you. The second book that's so good to do is, it's called Perimeter, Area, and Volume by David Adler. It's also in your pacing guide. And in this, just one of the many examples, he has a real world example of popcorn. And the popcorn is in boxes, and these boxes are right rectangular prisms. Other explorations, wouldn't it be neat to build this with cubes? A great thing to put in a center. Keep those cubes going, because if they don't have that concrete, then they're not going to have that firm foundation to build the pictorial and the abstract. Now, these cubes are from a woodworking shop, and they sell to schools with a special rate. This is the email, and Carol will answer your email. You can buy 1,000 cubes for $65 for one classroom. Now, if you had 2 people teaching math in the 5th grade, you might be able to share that easily. So you could, for one $65 purchase, you could make the 40 bags of 25, and you could share it with another teacher. Just alternate either times or days, whoever gets that. Now, if you have a larger school, they sell 5,000 cubes, which would make 5 classroom packets for $212.50. So keep that in mind and keep the kids building. Enjoy your volume lessons for Murfreesboro City Schools, Unit 1 and Unit 9.